Hey guys, tonight we journey deep into a warm, humid past where moonlight glints off jade ornaments and fireflies hover like ancient omens. You're standing in the Maya lowlands, maybe barefoot, the earth soft with centuries of memory. A temple rises beside you, layered stone steps brushed with time. A drumbeat echoes from somewhere unseen. Maybe it's a festival, or maybe it's just time itself keeping pace the way it always has here. Steady, sacred, just slightly out of sync with your Fitbit. You tilt your head up and the sky's enormous, so full of stars you forget to blink. But to the Maya, that twinkling sprawl wasn't just beautiful, it was practical, predictable, even at times bossy. Every speck of light had something to say. Some were gods, others were warnings, and one or two might have just been ancient sky trolls throwing shade. Either way, it's no exaggeration to say the Maya were obsessed with tracking time, but not the way you and I are. No deadlines, no 9 to 5, no microwave timers. Their time was a living being, breathing, growing, occasionally misbehaving. And honestly, you probably wouldn't survive a week on their schedule. Days with their own personalities, months named after frogs, years that sometimes didn't end when you wanted them to. But that's part of the fun. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge along a mossy path between two rows of stone staley tall weathered monuments, covered in elegant glyphs. The air smells like wet clay and incense. Each step echoes into the stillness. Somewhere a frog chirps as if to remind you, yes, this place breathes too. Here time doesn't tick, it shifts, it cycles. It loops back like a serpent swallowing its own tail sometimes literally because that symbol pops up everywhere. The Maya didn't just measure time, they gave it feelings. They gave it rituals, they gave it corn. Lots and lots of corn. You arrive at a large plaza open to the stars framed by low pyramids. A bonfire crackles lazily near the center, casting gold shadows on the carved steps. In this place, ancient time lives in the stones. Every building is angled just so, lining up with some solstice or equinox. The entire city is a giant sundial you can walk through and occasionally stub your toe on. Historians still argue whether Maya cities were first and foremost calendars or whether they were cities that just really liked astrology. Either way, standing here at night, you feel that time is not a straight line. It is circular, patient, thick like honey. And here in the quiet jungle, it's never in a rush. You pause beside a carved tablet. The glyphs are mesmerizing, tiny loops and lines that speak of rulers, gods, and star patterns. A mainstream historical fact, many of these stelae date events using the long count calendar, a system that marks days in base 20 units, stretching back to what we'd call 3114 BCE. Basically, the Maya were recording time long before your wall calendar decided puppies and sunglasses were a good idea. You sit for a moment leaning against cool stone. Something about this place asks you to slow down. Even the bugs seem to move in sacred rhythm. And above you the sky hums with stories. In Maya cosmology, the heavens were layered like a celestial cake with gods living on different levels. Some gentle, some mischievous, a few downright terrifying. And all of them operated on schedules. Venus, for instance, had serious influence. When it rose as the morning star, it wasn't just pretty, it was politically relevant. Battles were planned around it. Rulers interpreted its glow like modern CEOs reading quarterly reports only with more feathers involved. And beneath your resting feet, the underworld known as Xibalba. It wasn't just some scary myth zone, it had a map, a layout. Some parts even had better lighting than your average DMV. Time flowed there too often backward or sideways, depending on which god you asked. Some scholars believe ceremonial ball games symbolized battles with time itself. Victory meant order and losing. Well, we won't get into that. A quirky tidbit for you, one Maya glyph for zero may have originally been represented as a shell. Yep, a little spiral shell. Because when you're dealing with infinite cosmic loops, zero isn't absence, it's potential. Like hitting clear all on your divine spreadsheet. You stretch, listening to the distant hoot of an owl. The fire dies down. And even though you haven't moved in a while, time has shifted all around you. That's the Maya paradox. The slower you go, the more you see. So you lie back on the stone staring at the stars and imagine what tomorrow might be called. Maybe 8 rain or jaguar wind. Something powerful. Something that reminds you here even the hours wear masks. You're still lying there flat on your back on a stone warmed slightly by the memory of afternoon sun. The stars above haven't shifted much, but the mood in the air has. There's a kind of silence that isn't really silent, it hums. You can feel it in your chest. Time isn't passing, it's breathing. Eventually you rise and begin to wander again, your footsteps soft over the packed dirt paths between temples and homes. The structures here aren't random. They're lined up like puzzle pieces from the sky's blueprint. The Maya didn't just build cities, they built calendars you could live inside. Take the ball courts, for instance. Those long open alleyways flanked by sloping walls. They weren't just for sweaty team sports. Some believe the courts mirrored the path of the sun, or the cycles of Venus, or even the layout of the cosmos itself. Historians still argue whether the ball game was a purely ritual thing or if people actually played it for fun. Either way, try bouncing a rubber ball without using your hands while wearing a feathered headdress, and you'll get the idea. As you pass the edge of one of these courts, you imagine the sound of cheering crowds or maybe chanting priests. Depends on the season. The Maya tied games to moments in the calendar, which itself was tied to, well, everything. Weather, planting seasons, royal births, and yes, even the sacred corn. Speaking of which, time for breakfast. You duck into a small courtyard where the smell of fresh tamales hangs in the air like a cozy memory. A family has just finished grinding maize using a stone matata, their arms moving in slow practiced rhythm. The sound is hypnotic. The food here isn't just nourishment, it's cosmological alignment. Corn is literally the stuff people were made of, according to Maya creation stories. The gods tried mud and wood first, total flops. But corn perfect, flexible, delicious. So when you eat corn, you're not just snacking, you're reenacting creation itself. No pressure. You sit cross-legged and accept a tamal wrapped in a corn husk. It's soft and hot and smells like patience. And as you choose, someone across the courtyard is arranging pebbles in a line, calendar stones, little physical counters to mark the passage of sacred days. It's like a planner, but if your planner had a spiritual crisis every 52 years. Yes, every 52 years, the Maya calendar completed a full cycle, kind of like your laptop asking for a full system restart. People got a little tense around that time. Would time reboot itself? Would the gods hit Ctrl delete on the cosmos? It was a moment of cosmic suspense. Families extinguished fires, fasted, and waited in the quiet glow of not knowing. And let's talk about those calendar systems. Plural because they had several. The 260-day Tzolk'in was the sacred one used to track religious ceremonies and divination. Each day had its own name, its own vibe, like one of those overly specific candles. 7 Jaguar, for example, might smell like mystery and warm obsidian. Then there's the 365-day Hab, which was more agricultural. You know for when to plant your corn, harvest it, or just host a rain dance and hope nobody gets hit by lightning. And the long count calendar. That's the granddaddy of them all. A system that doesn't repeat for over 5,000 years. The calendar that sparked all those 2012 end-of-the-world memes. Historians still argue whether that ending meant apocalypse renewal or just we ran out of space on the stone. A quirky tidbit, the Maya didn't divide weeks into sevens like we do. Nope. Instead, time came in repeating Trisana's chunks of 13 days. So if you're feeling burnt out from the Monday to Friday grind, try a 13-day rotation with built-in names like Nightstorm or Crocodile. You might feel surprisingly rebalanced. The sun's starting to peek over the tops of the trees now. Light dapples the stone steps, revealing vines and moss, and the occasional sleepy iguana. People begin to stir. Chickens cluck somewhere behind a woven wall. You're watching a city wake up not by alarms, but by cosmic appointment. Today, like every day, has its own flavor, its own meaning. You can't just snooze through it unless, of course, you're here in spirit wrapped in a blanket, hoping your dream self gets enough fiber. You stroll past a scribal workshop now where someone's brushing glyphs onto bark paper codices. These books folding like accordions record astronomical events with astonishing precision. Eclipses, solstices, phases of Venus. They didn't have telescopes, but their math could put your smartphone to shame. The Maya used a base 20 number system. That's right fingers and toes. 20 was sacred, and their symbols for numbers were dots, bars, and shells. It's elegantly simple, like if Lego made a counting system. You stop beside a wall painted with a mural. A priest stands next to a calendar wheel pointing skyward, surrounded by symbols for rain and maize. Is it prophecy and almanac? A motivational poster for time-conscious farmers, hard to say. But it's beautiful. So you take a deep breath, feel the damp morning air fill your lungs and realize you haven't checked your watch in hours. There's no need. Time here isn't something to measure. It's something to observe like fireflies or sunsets or your own breath. And as you turn down another winding path toward the sacred cave that marks the next point in your journey, you think maybe, just maybe, you could get used to this rhythm. You step carefully now, the jungle floor shifting beneath your feet. Roots curl like sleeping snakes across the path, and the air grows cooler, denser, filled with the scent of damp stone and crushed leaves. You're heading toward a cave, not just any cave, mind you, but a portal, a breathing mouth of the earth. In Maya belief, caves weren't spooky tourist attractions with overpriced flashlights. They were sacred entry points to Xibalba, the underworld, a place not of punishment, but of mystery, transformation, and naturally time. As you duck under a vine-laced archway, the world outside muffles. Inside, the cave exhales. Drips echo like ancient metronomes. Water slides lazily down mineral walls, catching glints of quartz. You light a torch or let someone else do it because you're understandably terrible at making fire with damp sticks and move deeper into the belly of the world. The Maya believed that time flowed differently in these places, slower, heavier. In many sites across the Yucatan and Guatemala, caves were used as ritual clocks, measuring not seconds or minutes, but cycles of the cosmos. Here ceremonies unfolded in perfect sync with celestial events above. The top of a temple might align with the equinox sunrise, while its base mirrored a sacred cave below heaven and earth, with your feet somewhere in between. You pass a small altar now smooth from centuries of careful offerings. Pots of cornmeal, bits of obsidian jade beads too tiny to be practical, and bones, sometimes animal, occasionally human. Historians still argue whether these sacrifices were symbolic or, well, not. The truth probably lies somewhere in the fog between our modern unease and their deep reverence. A shaft of light breaks through from a sinkhole above one of those perfectly placed shafts that only happens during a solstice. Imagine trying to calculate that with just stargazing cave mapping and a deep belief that your gods are punctual. No Google Calendar, just skystone and your own heartbeat. You take a breath and the air tastes ancient. Not old in a dusty attic way, but old like lullabies passed down through bone memory. This cave isn't a dead space. It listens. It remembers. Now a mainstream historical fact, the Maya used sacred caves as astronomical observatories. Archaeologists have found alignments between cave entrances and key solar events, sunlight touching carved markers only on certain days of the year. This wasn't random decoration. It was intentional engineering that told stories in shadows. A quirky tidbit: some caves were believed to be the birthplaces of gods or even time itself. In a few, archaeologists discovered small ceramic time bundles, groupings of objects wrapped in place together, thought to represent units of time made tangible. Imagine packing up a Saturday and leaving it in a cave for safekeeping. You'd probably include snacks. Further in, you pass a chamber where red handprints dot the walls, dozens of them like a silent crowd frozen mid-wave. Are they blessings, warnings? A mural of attendance? Theories vary, but as you hold up your own hand, your shadow fits over theirs. Suddenly you're part of the rhythm, not just a visitor, a beat in the cycle. Somewhere deeper in the cave, water trickles into a stone basin. You kneel beside it, peering down. The surface reflects nothing but flickering torchlight and your own sleep-heavy gaze. But to the Maya, water wasn't just water. It was a mirror of the sky, a bridge between realms. In quiet pools like this, priests once gazed for omens, reading ripples as if they were the curls of the Milky Way. You lean closer. The sound of the dripping water grows louder, steadier, like a drum, a clock, a slow, sacred countdown. You could stay here for hours, days even, and never really feel time pass. Not in the way your phone reminds you. Here time stretches like tree roots touching things far beyond your sight. It loops, it returns, and it whispers that every beginning has been here before. Suddenly a breeze curls through the cavern, cool and wet, and carrying the scent of copal incense. It's a reminder someone else has walked this path. Many someones: priests, kings, farmers, midwives, astronomers with eyes full of stars and chalk-stained fingers. All of them came here not to escape time, but to meet it, to greet it like an old friend and ask, "How are you today?" And maybe time answered with a bird call or a shadow falling in just the right place, or a whisper through a crack in the wall. Something that said today is three serpent and you should plant corn, or start a war, or take a nap. You exit the cave slowly, backtracking through dripping silence, passing those same red handprints again, now glowing with a new familiarity. They saw you come in. They nod as you leave. Outside, the light has shifted. The shadows are longer, the sun more golden, and the air smells like warm leaves and stone dust. You haven't missed anything, but somehow you've been gone a long, long time. You walk toward the nearest temple, your feet brushing the ground in a rhythm you didn't realize you were keeping. Maybe that's what the Maya knew, that time isn't something you hold. It's something you walk with. And tonight you're walking with it still. You leave the cave behind, blinking into the sunlight as it stretches across the wide plaza ahead of you. The stone under your feet radiates heat, warm from the same sun that the Maya charted with obsessive care. And by obsessive, we mean endearingly so, like someone who tracks moon phases and owns three calendars but still forgets their dentist appointments. Now you're stepping into the city center and it hums not with the bustle of traffic or vendors yelling about mango prices, but with a quieter, more cosmic energy. All around you, time is stacked like stone blocks. Literally, Maya architecture isn't just pretty, it's calendrical. This entire city, from temple peaks to hidden corners, is a living clock. You glance to your left, a pyramid rising with deliberate angles, not just spiritual real estate. That structure likely functions as a calendar, its staircases counting days, its shadow slicing across stone markers with uncanny accuracy during equinoxes and solstices. El Castillo at Chichen Itza is the most famous example where, during the spring and autumn equinoxes, the sun creates the illusion of a snake slithering down the stairs. Historians still argue whether that was a stroke of divine inspiration or the result of highly advanced geometry. Either way, it makes your smartphone alarm look positively primitive. You walk along the main avenue where steadily those tall carved stone monuments rise like bookmarks of time. Each one records an important date in Maya history inscribed using their long count calendar. Now here's your mainstream historical fact. The Maya used multiple overlapping calendars. The Tzolk'in, a 260-day ritual calendar, the Hab, a 365-day solar calendar, and the long count, which tracked vast cosmic cycles. The way they combined them formed something called a calendar round, a kind of cosmic Sudoku that reset every 52 years. And if that sounds confusing, it was, on purpose. Because Maya time wasn't just practical, it was spiritual, poetic, layered. You weren't just in Tuesday, you were in 12 Riri, in the Trichana of Chuen under the influence of Venus. Imagine waking up and thinking, it's Snake Day again. Better not cut my hair. You pause before a circular plaza, what might be the remains of a ball court. That's right, the Maya played ball games that were part sport, part ritual, and possibly part timekeeping. Some scholars believe the movement of the ball through these courts mirrored celestial cycles, especially the sun's path through the sky and the underworld. Fringe theory, sure. But when your society links everything to time, from cave rituals to corn harvests, it's not that much of a stretch. You run your hand along a carved panel near the court. It shows a player, midair arms raise, the ball suspended near his hip. His expression is calm, focused, like someone doing more than just trying to win. He's participating in something bigger, a reenactment of cosmic events. a resetting of balance. Some even say these games were calendar rituals echoing the battle of the hero twins in the Maya creation myth, who descended into the underworld, played a deadly ball game, and somehow rebooted the universe. You sit on the edge of the court now, legs swinging, letting the shadows creep across the stones beside you. They move slowly but deliberately, marking time not in ticks, but in silences. The same way a sundial works, but more poetic, like a story told in pauses. You squint up at the nearest temple again, its shadow leaning farther across the plaza. This, too, is a kind of clock. The sun moves, the shadow stretches, and time spills forward like slow honey. A woman walks past carrying woven baskets of what smells like tamales. You follow the scent because you're human and find yourself beside a market stall. Not just any stall, this one's got painted gourds that show star charts. Each gourd marks not only the position of the constellations, but important ritual dates. One even has tiny ticks etched into it, like a handheld calendar. A proto-iPhone if your iPhone were biodegradable and possibly possessed. You turn the gourd in your hands, marveling at how much care went into this object that will likely rot by next season. But that's the point. Maya time was cyclical. Things weren't meant to last forever. They were meant to return. Time was corn, it dies, it grows back. Time was rain, it leaves, it comes again. Your quirky tidbit. The Maya calendar doesn't have an end the way ours does. What some people misread as doomsday in 2012 was just the end of a cycle, kind of like your lease running out. You don't cease to exist. You just sign a new lease and maybe repaint the metaphorical bathroom. Back in the market, a scribe dips his brush into black ink made from soot and tree sap. He's writing glyphs onto a folded bark paper codex. His brush moves with confident slowness. These aren't just letters, they're visual poetry. Each glyph tells a story, a dated deity, or all three at once. You lean in. One glyph looks like a fish eating a hand. It probably means time to plant squash, or something deeper, or both. Historians still argue whether some glyphs were purely phonetic or symbolic, and the answer frustratingly is often yes. The scribe doesn't look up, but he says softly, "It's 8 a jaw today. A good day for remembering," and then he goes on writing. You don't ask what you're supposed to remember. The whole city seems to be remembering something etched in stone, painted on walls, echoed in caves. You're just a guest. You walk slowly again, the shadows longer now, the plaza quieter. The ball court behind you has gone still. The scent of tamales fades. But your hands still carry the shape of the gourd. Your ears still echo with the rhythm of the dripping cave. And deep down, something in you has started to track time a little differently, not by hours, but by light and shadow, by the feel of warm stone underfoot, by the soft brush of wind against your cheek. And in that rhythm, you keep walking. You follow a narrow path that snakes away from the Grand Plaza, your sandals brushing against tiny sprigs of grass, poking up between ancient paving stones. The city behind you hums faintly, its temples, its calendar, pyramids, its tamale vendors. But here everything grows quiet and softer. This part of the Maya world feels less concerned with celestial precision and more with life's messy, flavorful texture. You enter what appears to be a residential neighborhood, if you can call a collection of thatched roof structures tucked between crumbling walls and neighborhood. There's laundry fluttering on lines, Parrots flit from one tree to another, squawking about gossip you'll never understand. Smoke rises from clay ovens and the scent hits you. Roasted cacao, warm tortillas, and something spicy sour that makes your mouth water and your eyes water just a little. And here comes your mainstream historical fact. Maya cities weren't just for priests and kings. They were living, breathing urban centers full of artisans, merchants, potters, bakers, weavers, and yes, even timekeepers who weren't priests, just folks who wanted to know if it was a corn planting day or a don't get married day. Calendar knowledge filtered through every level of society. The baker didn't bake unless the day was astrologically appropriate. The midwife consulted the stars before delivering a child. And the tortilla maker, well, she had opinions about the sulkin, and she wasn't afraid to share them. You walk past one home where a woman presses masa onto a hot camel, her movements so practiced they seem timed to a cosmic metronome. She hums a tune, soft rhythmic, a lullaby perhaps. You want to ask what day it is. Instead, she gestures with her chin toward the cornfield behind her. As she says one word, you blink. It's a day name in the 260-day Sulcan calendar. Either path the journey, a good day to travel, or to reflect, or to stop asking too many questions and eat something already. A child darts past chasing a small, wooden toy, a wheeled jaguar that wobbles wildly. He giggles like he's inventing the wheel, and in a way he is. Quirky tidbit. The Maya had wheels but didn't use them for transport. That's right. Despite knowing how to make wheeled toys, they never developed carts or wagons for human use. Historians still argue whether that's because of lack of draft animals' rugged terrain or simply because they were too busy aligning their temples to Venus. You follow the child to the edge of the field where stalks of maize sway gently. This isn't just food, it's sacred. The Maya believed humans were made of corn literally. According to the Popol Vuh, the gods tried to make humans out of mud, then wood both flopped. Finally, they used corn and voila, snackable people. And so corn was more than a staple. It was identity, every kernel a reminder of divine origins. The farmer tending the field wears a wide-brimmed hat woven from palm leaves. He glances up and gives you a slight nod. He's not planting today, he isn't ideal for planting, but he is inspecting. And probably talking to the plants. That's not just sweet, it's historical. Maya agriculturalists often sang to their fields, chanted calendar-based blessings and left small offerings, bits of food, drops of cacao, the occasional feather. This was farming with emotional intelligence and a splash of celestial consultation. You kneel down and run your fingers along the dry soil. It's dark, rich, and still warm from the sun. Above you, the sky shifts subtly. Clouds drift in the slow choreography. A breeze carries the scent of chili and charred wood. In the distance, someone plays a flute, a simple bone instrument, but the notes are deliberate, not random. Each pitch matches a part of the day, a solar hour, if you will. And yes, the Maya had hours, not the way you do checking your phone with increasing dread. Their day was broken into chunks marked by the sun's position, animal behavior, and subtle environmental cues. The howler monkey screams, "Must be noon." The shadows on the corn row slant just right, time to rest. The jungle frogs start up. Good luck sleeping, but technically it's night. You wander toward a raised structure made of limestone blocks. Not quite a house, not quite a temple. This is a calendar house. The Maya often aligned domestic structures with celestial events. Some homes had built-in shadow markers, slits in the walls or roof, through which sunlight would fall only on specific days of the year, such as solstices or equinoxes. So if you think your smart home is impressive, try waking up to a shaft of light that only hits your breakfast bowl once every 260 days. Inside the calendar house, you find walls painted in faded reds and ochres. Glyphs spiral around the doorway, curling like vines. You brush your fingertips against them and feel the indentations left by centuries of calloused hands. Each glyph corresponds to a day name, a deity, a cycle. This room was probably used for divination, or planning harvests, or let's be honest, arguing about whether Mercury in retrograde meant you should reschedule your cousin's wedding. Outside again, you sit beneath a fruiting sapodilla tree. Its bark oozes chicle, the ancient chewing gum of the Maya, who invented it long before bubble blowers took over playgrounds. You pluck a leaf and roll it between your fingers. Sticky, scented, timed. Everything here is timed. And that's the thing, this neighborhood with its humble homes and wandering chickens is just as tied to the cosmic schedule as the temple complex. Maybe more so. While the high priest debated Venus cycles, someone down here had to figure out when to pick the avocados. You hear the flute again, this time slower. A signal maybe. Time to eat. Time to rest. Time to move. The child with the jaguar toy has curled up in a hammock. The tortilla lady leans back in her chair, eyes closed, lips still humming. And the wind picks up just slightly, like the breath of a calendar god whispering, "Yes, now." And you listen. You wake, or more likely never fully slept, on a reed mat inside one of the limestone homes. The breeze still sifts through the thatched roof above, tickling your hair and stirring the scent of crushed herbs. A faint hum rises from outside. Not mechanical, not modern. This is the kind of hum only a living city makes, a mixture of voices, grinding stones, boiling pots, and maybe someone loudly debating whether today's a lucky day to trim your hair. You step out and nearly trip over a basket full of tamales wrapped in banana leaves. Breakfast apparently, and you've timed it well. A woman waves you over and hands you one. No words, just a nod. The tamal is warm and stuffed with squash and black beans, and somehow tastes like it was blessed by 5 different gods. You sit to eat, and as the city yawns into motion, your eyes are drawn to the horizon where a procession has started. And here's your mainstream historical fact: public rituals and processions were crucial to Maya life. These weren't just about religion, they were communal recalibrations of time and identity. Calendars weren't silent, dusty things tucked into stone walls. They marched through the city in human form: priests, dancers, masked jaguars, feathered serpents on stilts. It was like someone opened a sacred planner and said, "Well, today's the day of nine wind. Time to throw a parade." You fall into step with the crowd. Children wear turtle shells on their backs, rattling with every move. One older man wears a headpiece that looks like a corn cob exploded in every direction. Others are dressed as the Bakhabs, those ancient deities who hold up the corners of the world like celestial corner guards who just really need a stretch break. You watch one person paint concentric circles on the ground using a brush made of agave fibers dipped in indigo. It's not just decorative, it's a physical manifestation of the Tzolk'in laid out in spirals. Each step in the dance moves someone forward through the calendar. And now for your fringe tidbit, some modern scholars believe certain Maya rituals may have been timed to sync with cicada broods, those mysterious insects that emerge in huge numbers every 13 or 17 years. Since 13 and 20 are the sacred Maya numbers. Remember that base 260 calendar, it's possible they time festivals to align with insect cycles. So yes, they may have been dancing for bugs. Your move, Coachella. The parade winds its way toward a step platform. It's not one of the towering pyramids, but a mid-sized structure that looks like a stone ziggurat lost a staring contest. The crowd begins to arrange themselves in circles, and it becomes clear this isn't just a show, it's a ceremony of recalibration. A priest climbs to the top and raises a conch shell to his lips. The sound that follows is like a wail in a canyon, haunting deep and utterly devoid of auto-tune. He begins to speak slowly, intoning the names of the day, the month the gods associated. The words aren't just informative, they're participatory. Each name is echoed back by the crowd, rippling like a wave. You lean over to a boy next to you who looks up with a grin. They're resetting the count, he says, as if it's the most normal thing in the world. Yesterday was 4 Shishorichanaris. Today is 5 men. See, he points to a cloth painted with glyphs. It's beautiful. The Maya didn't use weeks or months like you know them. Instead, they layered cycles, a 260-day sacred calendar, Tzolk'in, a 365-day solar calendar, Hab, and the long count calendar to track history in immense chunks. These cycles overlapped like interlocking gears, creating repeating yet infinitely unique time signatures. So while your calendar might get you to a dentist appointment, theirs could predict the return of a god, the rebirth of a king, or the ideal day to carve a canoe. The priest throws a handful of flower petals into the air, and a breeze carries them like confetti. Some land on your arm, soft and sun-warmed. A woman next to you offers a cup of atoli hot sweet corn drink. You sip and feel your body start to sync ever so slightly with the rhythm of the moment. Now for the scholarly scuffle, historians still argue whether these public calendar resets were exclusive to elites or community-wide. Some claim the peasants just watched, others insist everyone participated, dancing their date of birth like a walking calendar entry. What's more likely is a messy, joyful in-between. After all, even now you can't stop a neighborhood grandma from correcting your horoscope if she hears it wrong. You step out of the spiral and take a moment to walk alone. The city around you seems to shimmer slightly as if dusted in gold. Or maybe it's just the sun at that perfect morning angle, the one that photographers and corn deities both adore. A hummingbird darts past your face, its wings a blur. You pause and someone behind you murmurs, "He's right on time." You follow the bird without meaning to. It leads you past open markets where cacao beans are traded like money because they were, and past scribes hunched over bark paper, scratching glyphs in black-red ink. You peek over one shoulder and see a long count date, one that maps 1,000 years into the future. Who's to say it's not your birthday? Then unexpectedly you arrive at a small cave. A woman waits at the entrance, barefoot and serene. She nods and gestures inward. You're not sure what's inside, but your feet carry you forward anyway. The temperature drops instantly. Your eyes take a moment to adjust, and then dim orange light from resin torches. The cave walls are painted with handprints and swirling spirals. The floor has been swept smooth, And far in the back, a drip, drip, drip echoes like a ticking clock in water form. You step in deeper and the air tastes like earth and salt and old time. Time doesn't just tick in the Maya world. It flows, it loops, it sings. And the cave breathes. You didn't expect that. But here you are standing still inside this hollow world under the city. And yes, the walls do seem to expand ever so slightly when you inhale, as though the earth itself is joining you in this breath. The drip, drip, drip in the distance keeps time like a metronome in a very chill jazz band. You move deeper in your footsteps, muffled by packed soil and limestone dust. The torchlight flickers, revealing paintings so old that even the paint seems unsure of its job anymore. Above you on the curved ceiling is a jaguar stretched in mid-leap. Someone painted it with such confidence you half expect it to pounce. Surrounding it are dots, so many dots, each one part of a calendar glyph. You know enough now to recognize the pattern, a cluster for a day, another for a deity, and a spiral for the underworld. Because this isn't just a cave, this is a calendar room. And now for your mainstream fact, the ancient Maya believed caves were entrances to Xibalba, the underworld, not hell exactly, but a subterranean realm of gods, trials and sacred passageways. Caves weren't scary, they were revered. When you wanted to mark a new era, or honor a harvest, or even launch a new ruler's reign, you didn't necessarily shout it from the rooftops. You whispered it into a cave. A soft voice rises from the shadows chanting. You round a bend and see three women seated in a triangle around a stone bowl. They're old, deeply, gloriously old, and wear robes painted with vines and stars. One is grinding copal resin with a smooth stone. Another fans the small fire beneath a ceramic incense burner. The smoke twists into a column, then curls along the cave ceiling like it's been summoned. You sit. No one tells you to, but your knees do it on their own. One of the women places a handful of dried maize kernels into the bowl and begins to stir them, her fingers moving in a figure-8 pattern. She hums low off-key in a deliberate kind of way. Here's your quirky tidbit. Some Maya rituals in caves included the symbolic planting of corn in stone bowls filled with ash. These weren't actual crops, they were metaphysical seeds. The act honored the maize god who had to die and be reborn for humans to exist. So planting corn in the cave wasn't for farming. It was for reminding the universe to keep spinning. The woman offers you a kernel. You take it warm from her palm and place it on the cave floor, just like she does. And for a moment, nothing happens. Then the humming deepens, and the shadows shift. You're not sure if it's the flickering light or something less explainable, but the cave seems to stretch longer, wider. Glyphs shimmer on the walls, almost pulsing. You see the profile of a deity, long-nosed cornstalk, sprouting from his head, eyes closed in contentment. He's been drawn over and over with only slight variations, sometimes smiling, sometimes weeping, sometimes dancing in what might be a comically large pair of sandals. The women begin to chant names and numbers weaving together like braids. The 260-day Zolkin calendar pulses through their voices. 1 Imex, 2 Ik, 3 Akbal, and so on. Each name is a day. Each day is a god. Each god is part of you now, whether you asked for it or not. And now comes the scholarly squabble. Historians still debate whether these cave rituals were strictly elite-led, or if community members took part freely. Some argue that caves like this were reserved for priestly bloodlines, their chants passed down in secrecy. Others believe certain caves were public welcoming to all who knew the stories and brought an offering. This cave feels like a blend. Intimate, yes, but not exclusive. The old woman's eyes sparkle when she catches you watching, like she's saying, "Of course you're here. You always were." Eventually, the chant fades and the fire dies down to embers. One of the women presses a hand to your forehead, warm grounding, and whispers a name. It's not yours, not exactly, but it fits somehow, like a forgotten middle name or a password from a past life. You rise slowly, bow gently, and leave the bowl behind. Outside, the sun has shifted. It's late afternoon now, the shadows longer and tinged with red gold. The city has changed shape while you were below, or maybe just your eyes have. Either way, it all feels dreamier. You follow a narrow stone path lined with white flowers. A few bees zigzag lazily between them. The air smells like roasted chili and fresh lime, someone's cooking dinner. But you're not ready for that yet. Not when you spot something strange up ahead, a boy drawing in the dirt with a stick marking dots and lines in a long snaking line. You ask what he's doing. He squints at you. "I'm making tomorrow," he says like it's obvious. You crouch down. He shows you the numbers 13 ajaw, he says, which he's decided is going to be extra lucky. Why? Because it's corn soup day, he explains, and that's apparently the best kind of day. His drawing continues for several meters. You realize he's mapping the entire next month in his own personal glyphs. Some look like turtles, others like suns with winking eyes. You ask him if he'll remember it all. "I don't have to," he says, "the ground remembers for me." You stand and look back toward the cave. The smoke has vanished, the calendar has been sung, and tomorrow has already been sketched into the dirt by a child who thinks corn soup is cosmic, which honestly it kind of is. You wake to the sound of flutes, not the polished silver kind you might hear in an orchestra, but a breathier, reedier tone like wind being guided through hollow bones. It's sunrise again. The air outside your resting spot is damp with dew, and the horizon blazes gold through the trees. Somewhere nearby, water trickles through a channel made of smooth-cut stones. The music continues, weaving between the bird calls and the soft rustle of palm leaves. You follow it barefoot this time because shoes feel inappropriate now, like wearing headphones to a thunderstorm. As you walk, the trail takes you uphill into the mist-draped edge of the jungle. And then suddenly there it is, an observatory. It doesn't look like your modern idea of one. No telescope, no glass dome. This is a circular stone tower rising like a stubborn tree stump left behind by time. The top is slightly broken like a crown with one missing point, but it's unmistakably built for the sky. Mainstream historical fact, many Maya cities included dedicated observatories, structures aligned to celestial events with spine-chilling precision. The most famous El Caracol in Chichen Itza has windows cut to track the summer and winter solstices, Venus risings, and equinox alignments. And yes, they did all that with zero apps. You step inside the tower and blink, sunlight pours through narrow slits carved at precise angles. Each one frames a different patch of the sky. As the earth spins, beams of light crawl across the inner walls, like glowing snakes hitting carved markers at different times of year. It's not decoration, it's data. A man greets you without turning. He's seated in the center, cross-legged, wearing a jaguar pelt shawl that might just be the real thing. He's marking something on a bark paper codex with red ink and a bone stylus. He gestures for you to sit beside him and points to the open sky. Venus, just visible, pale but present. You gasp before you can help yourself. He nods solemnly, like he's seen that reaction 100 times and still appreciates it. Quirky tidbit time. The Maya tracked Venus so obsessively, they sometimes paused wars depending on its position. If Venus was rising as the morning star, it could signal conquest or divine wrath. Imagine calling off your campaign because the sparkly one's in a weird mood today. You'd think world leaders today could take a hint. He flips to another page in the codex. This one shows a large figure, possibly Kukulkan or Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent wrapped in glyphs that spiral outward like an unspooling snake. The priest points to one glyph in particular and says a single word, Katun. You nod like you understand. You don't, not fully yet. A Katun is a unit in the Maya long count calendar, roughly 20 years. The Maya didn't think in birthdays or back-to-school season. They thought in vast stretches of cyclical time eras within eras. Every Katun had its own character, omens, and flavor like celestial soup recipes passed down through generations. Historians still argue whether the average person in a Maya city could name their Katun the way you might name your astrological sign. Some think yes, others no way. But as the priest starts reading aloud from the codex, you suspect the answer might be closer to yes. And they probably had themed parties about it. He tells you softly like a bedtime story that your current moment is nestled between Katun endings, that you've arrived at a hinge in the calendar, a point where time folds a little. He draws a spiral in the dust and places a pebble at the center. Today, he says. Then he taps around the edge, yesterday, tomorrow, 100 years ago, and 5 Katuns from now. The point time's not a line. It's a spiral, always folding, always coming back to familiar notes with unfamiliar instruments. As if to illustrate the point, a hummingbird flits through one of the observation slits. It hovers for a heartbeat before vanishing again, and you swear the priest chuckles softly. They always show up when the count's correct. Outside again, the city has shifted with the morning. Markets unfold like fabric full of papayas and chili pastes, women painting their faces with red clay and tying babies to their backs with embroidered shawls. You hear someone announcing the day's Zolkin, date 6 Khan. Corn and light energy, they say. A good day for mending roofs and forgiving neighbors. Children are playing a game that looks suspiciously like dodgeball, but with a hoop and a ball too heavy for comfort. The losing team appears to be dramatically faking their own ritual sacrifice, complete with imaginary knives and theatrical groans. A nearby mother just sighs, adjusts her tortilla pile, and lets the play continue. Some debates never go out of style. You pause near a shrine where incense burns. Someone hands you a folded scrap of cloth woven with yellow and green threads. Your Katun color, she says. You didn't tell her your Katun. Or did you? You wander back toward the observatory where a younger scribe now sits alone flipping through a codex. He's been writing your arrival into the calendar. Just like that, your footprints added to a cycle that's been unrolling for millennia. It's not about fame. It's about continuity. You aren't a guest anymore. You're a point on the spiral. And you realize something. For the Maya, time wasn't just what happened between events. It was the event. It was alive, Rituals weren't frozen relics. They were tools to mold time, sync it with the stars, convince it to play nice with cornfields and kings and chaos. You blink up at the sky again. Venus is gone now, swallowed by daylight, but you know it'll be back. That's the point. Time, like maize, always returns, sometimes through soil, sometimes through starlight. Always, always on time. Your foot nudges something on the ground. It's a cob of corn, half roasted, a little charred, as if someone was interrupted mid-snack and never came back for it. It smells amazing, actually. And somehow this feels like a natural transition from Venus and calendars back to the earth, back to food, specifically corn, or as the Maya would have said, ixim. You pick up the cob, and before you can overthink whether this is stealing or not, a woman waves you over. She's squatting by a large kummel, a clay griddle roasting more maize, flattening dough between her palms, with a rhythm that might just be more ancient than writing itself. She presses a freshly made tortilla into your hand like it's a handshake. You bite. It's warm and soft with the faintest whisper of char from the fire. No salt, no sauce, and still you could live off this. Many people once did. Mainstream historical fact maize wasn't just a staple for the Maya, it was sacred. Entire myths told of humans being formed from corn dough, not clay, not divine fire. Corn. Your bones in this world are masa. Your blood is maize milk. So in a way, this humble tortilla is communion. You chew more slowly now. A group nearby is preparing tamales, wrapping spiced maize paste around wild mushrooms and rabbit meat, then bundling them in leaves before steaming them in underground pits. A child offers you a taste with the same solemnity a server might offer champagne at a tasting. You take a bite. It tastes like rain and smoke and time, like the forest decided to feed you directly. And here's your quirky tidbit of the day. The Maya believed that corn had genders and personalities. White corn was male and clever, yellow was female and nurturing, red was hot-headed, black corn mysterious, and usually best left alone unless you were ready for a vision quest or a very weird nap. Some villages even assigned specific days to eat certain colors based on planetary alignments. No pressure, though. A man in a jaguar tooth necklace steps forward holding a painted gourd. He dips into it with a cup and offers you a drink. A toli, a thick maize-based drink sweetened with honey and spiced with cacao and chili. You sip cautiously. It's warm and slightly gritty, like a cinnamon milkshake made by someone who really believes in balance. The chili kicks at the end. The jaguar man grins. You try to thank him, but he's already pointing toward the edge of town. A line of people is disappearing into the jungle. No panic, no urgency, just casual, single-file jungle entry. You follow because of course you do. The path slopes downward. Cooler here, shaded soft earth underfoot. Eventually the air changes, not just temperature, but texture. It's wet, still, charged. You step into a clearing and stop short. A cenote yawns before you, a limestone sinkhole, its water perfectly still, and so clear it might not be there at all. Vines drape down from the rim. Tree roots hang like chandeliers. A parrot cackles from somewhere overhead. This isn't a swimming hole. This is a threshold. Historians still argue whether cenotes were used primarily for ritual offerings or just as precious water sources. Evidence supports both. Some have yielded golden masks and jade beads, others practical household goods, and yes, sometimes bones, but always, always maize. Handfuls of kernels dropped into the depths like coins in a well. A wish, a thank you, a bribe. A girl approaches the lip of the cenote and kneels. From a small pouch, she scatters a mix of seeds. Corn beans squash into the water. They float for a moment, then slowly drift downward, vanishing into the dark. You sit beside her, unsure whether to mimic the gesture or just watch. She doesn't seem to expect you to act. She just hums softly and the sound echoes off the limestone walls like a lullaby trapped in a bottle. The cave near the cenote beckons. You duck inside. It's not pitch black, sunlight filters through cracks above, but it's quiet. Utterly quiet. The kind of silence that buzzes in your ears. You walk deeper, brushing past tiny bats and carved walls. The walls, yes, they're painted. Swirls of red and black, some humanoid shapes, some unmistakably maze gods. One has a corn stalk growing from his head. Another holds the sun in one hand and the moon in the other, like he's weighing them. You run your hand along the stone and feel the grooves of a glyph. Someone centuries ago carved the equivalent of a blog post here, probably about a successful harvest, or the day Venus stood still. And now you're reading it with your fingertips, not your eyes. A soft drip of water echoes behind you. One drop, then another. Like the cave is counting. You find a small chamber just big enough to sit. The ceiling slopes low, forcing you to stoop. A woven mat waits on the floor, placed there not for comfort, but purpose. You sit, cross-legged, breathe in the mineral-heavy air, and listen. Your mind wants to race ahead. What's next? What do we see after this? But this place doesn't work like that. Time folds differently here. You think of that spiral drawn in dust, of Venus tracking across the sky, of corn that feeds and listens. You close your eyes. For a moment, it's just you, the earth, and the thrum of something deeper. This cave isn't just a cave. It's the first clock, a calendar carved by shadows, a diary of seeds and silence, a heartbeat made of limestone and water and weight. Eventually, the girl who scattered seeds appears again, holding a torch this time. She offers you her hand not as a guide, but as a reminder. You're part of this place now, a guest, a whisper, a footnote carved into the cave's memory. You take her hand. You both walk back into the light. You emerge from the cave like a creature reborn. It takes a moment for your eyes to readjust to the light. The sun is lower now, tinged with orange, casting long, sleepy shadows across the clearing. A parrot screeches a greeting, or perhaps a warning. Either way, you're too calm to care. Something about the hush of that cenote still clings to your skin like cool mist. You follow the winding trail out of the jungle and toward another part of the city. This time it's quieter, no markets, no music. Just steady hammering, soft chipping sounds, and the murmur of focused conversation. You're walking into the workshop district. In the distance, a stone slab lies half-carved glyphs and celestial maps halfway through their slow birth. A group of scribes sits cross-legged under a thatched roof painting with squirrel hair brushes on long strips of mattle, a kind of paper made from tree bark. One of them waves you over as if you're late to class. He holds up a codex and turns it toward you. You lean in. The pages bloom with symbols, most of them familiar now. Calendar glyphs, maze gods, the spiraled curls of wind and fire. Venus, of course, but something new catches your eye. A grid, Not a spreadsheet, though close, but a tidy matrix of days and numbers and illustrations that looks suspiciously like a to-do list for the cosmos. Mainstream historical fact. The Maya Tzolk'in calendar was 260 days long, divided into 20 day names and 13 numbers cycling through every possible combo before repeating. Why 260, historians still argue. Some say it matches the human gestation period, suggesting the Maya tracked life from conception. Others point to the timing of certain zenithal suns or planting cycles, or maybe all of the above. The Maya didn't do either or. They did yes and. The scribe begins to explain, his voice soft and deliberate, like he's sung this lesson to 100 initiates. He points to a symbol that looks like a handprint, another that resembles an ear of corn with legs. You ask what today is. He grins. Sevnawayinormax. Jaguar Day. Strong energy. Good for stealth and transformation. Maybe not the best time to settle debts. You nod like you knew that. Quirky tidbit. The Maya believed each of the 260-day combinations had a unique personality, and so did you based on your birthday. A sort of cosmic LinkedIn profile. Some days were excellent for planting beans, but terrible for naming children. Others were great for marriage, but awful for traveling. Your day could determine your profession, your mood, and even your compatibility. Swipe left on Tukan if you're a Sixitsanab. He hands you a small folded codex, a pocket calendar basically. You can't read most of it yet, but you recognize the glyph for Eek Wind, and one for Ben, which looks like a reed or a pathway. The scribe points at the horizon. Time to go there. You leave the workshop behind and walk the length of a low white road, Sac B they call it. Raised, paved, gleaming under the lowering sun like a stone river. These causeways connected major Maya cities, and they didn't meander. They were direct ceremonial and built for both feet and thoughts. Some even glowed in moonlight thanks to crushed shells in the plaster. Ancient street lamps, if you will. You resist the urge to jog. Walking feels more respectful. The road leads you toward an edge, not of a cliff, but of something quieter. Rural. You're entering farmland. Stone terraces rise like steps up the hillside, stacked neatly, holding back soil like bookshelves for roots. In the valleys, canals snake through fields of maize beans and squash, the three sisters as they're often called. Grown together, feeding each other. Beans fix, nitrogen squash, shades weeds, and corn holds everything upright. Ancient permaculture, still smarter than most modern farms. A man stoops among the crops, inspecting a vine. His tunic is stained with red earth and sweat, but his smile is calm. He invites you to join him and hands you a digging stick. It's heavier than it looks. Your first jab into the dirt is embarrassingly clumsy. He doesn't laugh. Instead, he shows you how to plant by the stars. Literally. He gestures upward, points out where the Pleiades rise just before dawn this time of year. That means it's time for beans. When Orion's belt appears, time to harvest maize. Their entire agricultural cycle is a synchronized dance with the heavens. Weather apps, nah. They had constellations in memory. He speaks of the Hab, the 365-day solar calendar used for these cycles. 18 months of 20 days plus 5 nameless days at the end. Wayeb, a slightly spooky period when the boundary between worlds thinned and people stayed inside. You wonder if that's how weekends were born. A baby goat scampers past, nearly toppling your basket of squash. The farmer just shrugs. It's Wayeb, he might say if it were. Let it be weird. Historians still argue how strictly the Maya synced agricultural rituals to their calendar cycles. Some claim the elites used timekeeping as social control, decreeing when peasants could plant, marry, or mourn. Others believe the timing emerged naturally, part spiritual, part empirical. Either way, the result was the same food grown with reverence and rhythm. You sit beside him for a while, just watching the wind ripple through the corn stalks. You ask if the calendar ever feels like a burden. He shakes his head. It's a promise, he says, a reminder that time returns, that what dies returns, that the world knows its own heartbeat. The sun is nearly down now. Somewhere nearby, a conch shell is blown low and long. Evening rites begin soon. You hand back the digging stick, and with dirt under your nails and maize in your teeth, you follow the wind toward whatever time has planned next. You follow the breeze until it thickens into scent. Smoke, flowers, something earthy but sweet. Maybe copal resin, maybe crushed petals, maybe both. Either way, it leads you to a courtyard where time doesn't feel linear anymore, more like a spiral or maybe a braid. Stone steps rise around a square of smooth-packed clay encircled by torches that haven't yet been lit. At the center, an altar made of polished limestone, flanked by incense burners, and two tall wooden poles wrapped in feathers and bark. A priest sits there, cross-legged, painting dots onto a turtle shell with a stick. You sit beside him like you belong there, like maybe you've always belonged here. He nods once, barely, then tilts the turtle shell toward you. It's a calendar. Not the 365-day Hob, not the 260-day Zolkin, but a long count inscription. 5 numbers stacked in dots and bars and swirling shell shapes. You blink. Is that a date or a cosmic GPS coordinate? Mainstream historical fact. The Maya long count calendar tracked days since a mythical creation date, August 11, 3114 BCE in our calendar. Dates were written as a sequence of 5 numbers, Baktun, Katun, Tun, Uinal, Kin, each representing increasingly shorter units of time. Think of it as a base 20 and base 18 hybrid system for measuring deep time. Really deep. Time as a layer cake, not a straight line. The priest dips his stick again, adds a glyph that looks like a fish with wings, then nods to the poles. Dance will explain it better, he whispers. Sure, why not? You scoot back as 2 dancers step into the courtyard. Their headdresses are absurd in a glorious way, plumed to the point of resembling birds who got into the costume box. Their movements start small, a step, a turn, a bounce. But the rhythm builds. Feet slap the earth in a pattern that mimics a heartbeat. Shoulders swing like corn in wind. Hands slice the air like sunbeams. You start to see it, literally see it. They aren't just dancing for fun. They're enacting the calendar itself. A tun, a katun, a baktun. Each step, turn, and breath a unit of time. Every motion a tick on an ancient cosmic clock. Quirky tidbit. Some Maya rituals marked the end of a katun, roughly 20 years, with massive public celebrations involving human impersonators of gods who might spend a whole year living in character before being ceremonially retired. Imagine having to cosplay as your city's rain deity for 12 months, monsoon season included. A third dancer joins, masked as the maize god. You recognize the green curls, the corn cob crests the youthful strut. He stumbles, falls, is buried in symbolic fabric, then rises again, stronger, greener. The crowd hums. The world turns. This isn't just timekeeping. It's mythology, memory, and prophecy all rolled into interpretive dance. Somewhere in the haze, you remember this isn't your average Tuesday night. Historians still argue whether these performances were meant to teach calendrical knowledge to the masses or simply reinforce elite religious power. Either way, the crowd gets the point: time is alive. It moves, it eats, it returns. And you'd better be ready. The priest offers you a drink afterward, chocolate, bitter and thick flavored with chili and ground maize. You sip. It's spicy enough to wake your ancestors. Not that you're complaining. Nearby children practice their own version of the dance. It's less graceful, more giggles, but the steps are there. Little feet tapping out the units of time like they were born counting back tunes. Maybe they were. You stretch out on a woven mat as the dancers bow and leave. Above you, the stars begin to creep in, punctual as always. You try to count them, but the sky seems to multiply the longer you look. It's like the universe is scrolling, revealing its code one pixel at a time. A man sits beside you, older Leon, draped in a jaguar-patterned shawl. He carries a staff carved with snake motifs and speaks slowly, like each word is a stone being placed just right. You watch time dance, he says. Now come feel where it sleeps. You follow him down another sakbi, this one narrower, lined with whispering plants. The jungle presses close again, but you're not afraid. If anything, the quiet feels earned. Eventually you arrive at a low stone building with a domed roof and a single small door. You duck inside. It's dark, warm, damp. The sweat bath. Steam curls from a pit in the center fed by hot stones and scented herbs. You sit, you sweat, you exist. That's enough. The old man pours water over the stones. The hiss sounds like time exhaling. He chants something under his breath, old syllables, older than empires. You don't ask what they mean, you let them be. Mainstream historical fact again. The Maya Temazcal, or sweat bath, was both a cleansing ritual and a symbolic return to the womb of the earth. Used for healing childbirth, spiritual rebirth, and hangovers, probably it combined herbal steam meditation and prayer. You'd emerge physically lighter, spiritually recalibrated, and slightly pruned. The walls flicker with light from a tiny clay lamp. Your breath slows. The old man presses a smooth stone into your palm. You hold it like it holds answers. Historians still argue how widely sweat baths were used, whether they were reserved for elites or available to commoners, whether they required special astronomical timing or could be impromptu. But you're not thinking about any of that right now. You're just breathing, sweating, existing. And when the door finally creaks open to let in cool air and starlight, you step out like you're being born for the third time today. The sky is black silk, the stars sequins. A comet maybe streaks by, but maybe it's just a trick of tired eyes. You lie down on the grass, damp and clean and full of beans. Tomorrow you'll ask about pyramids, about math, about how they fit thousand-year stories into glyphs the size of a fig. But not tonight. Tonight you let the calendar dance itself into your dreams. You wake not suddenly but gently, as if the earth itself has nudged you back to awareness. The grass beneath your head is still cool. The scent of damp soil and faint herbs clings to your skin. You stretch and something inside your spine pops in a satisfying, almost cosmic way. The stars are fading, now replaced by a warm silver haze. Dawn. Someone is calling you, not urgently, but with that steady kind of beckoning reserved for market day, or an important conversation about maize. You follow the voice through hanging vines and over a shallow brook where frogs blink lazily at you. The path opens up to a clearing, and there it is. A field of corn stretching in all directions, like golden skyscrapers with leafy hair. The stalks sway with early morning wind. Birds dart in and out, gossiping. You step into the rows, and suddenly everything smells like sun-warmed silk and dust. The stalks part just enough to let you through, like the corn is saying, "Come on in. We've been expecting you." Mainstream historical fact. For the Maya maize wasn't just a crop, it was life itself. Their creation myth from the Popol Vuh describes the first humans being formed from maize dough. It was their body, their sustenance, their currency, their identity. If you didn't have corn, you weren't living, you were loitering. You're not alone in the field. Others are already at work, barefoot, rhythmic, methodical. Women crack husks open with one practice flick. Children gather fallen cobs into baskets. A man you might have met earlier, who knows anymore, holds out a woven satchel. He gestures for you to help. You pick a stalk. You pull. You stumble back slightly. It's tougher than it looks, but the cob finally comes free with a soft tearing sound. You almost expect it to say thank you. Instead, it just glows. Quirky tidbit. Ancient Maya sometimes dyed their corn dough blue with wildflowers for special rituals. Imagine a stack of blue tortillas piled beside a bowl of chocolate chili. Pinterest would lose its mind. You follow the group back toward the village with your bundle of ears, and no one seems in a hurry. The sun is barely above the horizon, and everything feels like it's unfolding on Maya Standard Time. Whenever it happens, that's when it was meant to happen. At a large flat stone, a woman is grinding kernels into masa using a metate and mano, basically a Mesoamerican mortar and pestle that doubles as an arm workout. You try it. It's weirdly satisfying, like turning pebbles into velvet. The ground corn smells faintly sweet, like sunshine pretending to be bread. Nearby, someone fans a flame under a comal, a wide flat griddle, and drops the first tortilla of the morning onto its hot surface. Sizzle, flip, puff. You could cry. Historians still argue whether maize cultivation spread from a single domestication event or arose in multiple regions, but there's no question it became the heartbeat of Maya civilization. Cities rose and fell around it. Rituals centered on it. Time itself was often measured in the labor of its harvest. You sit under a thatched awning with a warm tortilla in one hand and a mug of atoll in the other. The atoll's thick and slightly gritty like oatmeal's hotter, looser cousin, and tastes of vanilla and toasted corn. You sip it slowly, grateful for the moment, for the field, for your non-existent Wi-Fi. A boy sits beside you holding a woven toy that vaguely resembles a jaguar. He leans against your arm without saying anything. His hair smells of ash and sun. It's oddly comforting. Someone starts singing. No instruments, just voices layered like folded cloth. The melody loops and flows, bending around the wind. You don't understand the words, but you know what they mean. They mean home. They mean before, and after, and again. After breakfast, there's talk of a visit to the underworld. You raise an eyebrow, but no one laughs. This isn't Halloween, it's cosmology. A guide, yes, the same priest with the turtle calendar, waves you toward a slope that descends into a shadowy cave mouth, nestled beneath a limestone cliff. You follow, of course. What else are you going to do? Go back to your 9 to 5. The air shifts as you step inside. It's colder, quieter. Your sandals crunch on damp stone. A torch flares behind you, and the walls come alive with murals. Red, black, and ochre-painted scenes of gods, serpents, humans bending backwards into stars. Mainstream historical fact. The Maya believed caves were sacred portals to Xibalba, the underworld. Not hell, not exactly, but a challenging realm full of trials, darkness, and weird bureaucracy. Caves weren't avoided. They were visited, revered, sung into, prayed into. Some rituals involved leaving offerings of corn blood or even pottery figurines in the depths. You keep walking, deeper, colder. Your breath fogs the air now. The path narrows, then opens into a chamber filled with stone platforms and faint echoes. Someone singing again, same tune maybe, but slower now. You feel it in your ribs. You kneel at an altar of smooth rock. A small bowl sits there full of maize flour. The priest sprinkles a few grains into the cave floor and murmurs something. You do the same. The act feels weighty, symbolic, but also simple, like feeding time for the gods. Historians still argue whether these caves were used only by elite priesthoods or also by commoners on pilgrimage. Some think specific caves were aligned with solstices or planetary movements, turning them into giant stone calendars that breathe light and time once a year. You sit a while in the stillness, ears ringing gently from silence. A single drop of water falls from a stalactite and lands in your offering bowl. The priest smiles like that was the whole point. You walk back toward the light blinking as the sun reintroduces itself. The boy with the jaguar toy is waiting at the mouth of the cave. He takes your hand like it's the most natural thing, and together you step back into the day. You've passed through time and back again, not with machines or math, but with stories, corn and shadow. And somehow that feels more permanent. The market is stirring. A ball game is about to start. Someone's building something tall near the plaza, more steps, more sky. But you don't rush. You breathe in the corn-sweet air, brush the dust from your knees and walk on. You walk slowly now, your sandals brushing over warm stone as the village awakens behind you. It's not loud, just the soft clatter of baskets being filled, the flap of tortillas, flipping on commels, and the occasional murmur of voices greeting the sun with the reverence usually reserved for royalty or ripe avocados. The scent of toasted maize follows you like a friendly ghost. You head toward a structure you've seen before, but haven't entered, something that seems both grand and understated. It's a long rectangular building with stone steps leading to a doorway draped in woven fabric. A few elders are already seated inside on low stools, heads bowed slightly as they speak in low tones. It's the Codex House. Mainstream historical fact, Maya codices were books made of bark paper, folded accordion style, and covered in beautiful glyphs and illustrations. These weren't casual reads, they held astronomical calculations, calendrical data, rituals, and myths. Think NASA manual meets mystical scrapbook. One elder beckons. You duck inside, letting the shadows cool your face. The room smells of ink and old paper, well, bark paper, technically. A scribe sits near the back, carefully painting glyphs onto a stretched sheet using a fine brush dipped in black and red pigment. He's murmuring to himself in rhythm with his strokes, like the glyphs are spells that need whispering into existence. You crouch beside him and he doesn't mind. He points to a sequence of symbols, swirls jaguar paws, turtle shells stacked like pancakes, and gestures as if asking, "Do you see it?" You nod even though you don't. But it's okay. The glyphs feel less like writing and more like invitations, Each one is a door. Quirky tidbit. The Maya had a glyph that represented zero long before many other civilizations. It looked like a shell, a symbol of emptiness and potential. Kind of poetic, really nothingness, as something soft and curved and seaborne. The elder tells you that today's page in the Codex is about time. Of course it is. Time you're learning isn't a line here. It's a pattern. Circular. Layered like tamales in a steamer. Past events ripple forward. Future ones loop back, and everything exists in relationship to everything else. The moment you picked that corn this morning, that was part of a ceremony 2 centuries ago. Probably. Historians still argue whether each codex was intended as a community document or the private domain of priests and rulers. Some think villagers would gather and listen to the codex being read aloud during festivals. Others suggest they were guarded like spiritual USB drives too powerful for casual use. You sit cross-legged as the elder recites a section not translated, but translated anyway. His voice is slow and deep like honey being poured onto warm stone. The glyphs are stories, yes, but also instructions, star maps, seasonal guides. Today, he says, is a good day for planting beans, or marrying, or forgiving someone, or all three. When the reading ends, he rolls the codex gently and tucks it into a bundle wrapped in jaguar skin cloth. You help him tie it. The fabric smells faintly of cedar and smoke. It feels like handling a sleeping god. Outside, the village is now fully awake. Children run across the plaza with half-eaten mangoes. A few men hoist long wooden poles and begin lashing them together, building something tall and spindly. You're told it's an observatory. Mainstream historical fact. Maya architecture often aligned precisely with celestial events, equinoxes, solstices, Venus cycles. Some buildings were designed so sunlight would pass through narrow slots at exact moments of the year, lighting up specific glyphs or altars. You squint up at the structure in progress. Right now it looks like a glorified lifeguard stand, but you know better. Once complete, it'll mark when Venus rises before dawn, which apparently is important. Venus was the planet of war of prophecy. Its appearances dictated calendar cycles and campaign launches. Someone hands you a carved disc, a replica of a calendar wheel. It's heavy, almost comically so, and full of radiating glyphs and animal faces. You spin it in your hands. There are 260 days in this sacred calendar that sulkin each with its own personality and power. Your birthday, if anyone here cared, would link you to a specific day name and number, like being assigned a spiritual horoscope and a Power Ranger all in one. You ask a girl beside you what today is. She says Ada job. She grins and adds good day to learn something new or fall in love. You laugh, but she doesn't. She just runs off into the crowd, braid bouncing. You follow the scent of cacao, yes again, and arrive at a smaller stone building where a woman is whisking a dark, foamy drink in a painted cup. She offers you a sip. It's bitter spiced with chili and honey. It tastes like a secret. Your tongue tingles. Quirky tidbit: Maya nobility sometimes used cacao beans as currency. You could buy a turkey with 200 beans or just drink them and go broke, but happy. You carry the cup to a shaded bench and sit. From here, the observatory workers look like dancers, raising beams, tying knots, calling out angles. One of them laughs and wipes sweat from his brow with the edge of his tunic. You catch his eye. He waves. Historians still argue whether Maya sky watchers were full-time astronomer priests or simply clever masons with a knack for trigonometry. Some evidence suggests entire guilds were devoted to celestial planning. Others claim it was a decentralized community affair. But whatever the truth, the stars were never just decorations. They were timetables, warnings, love letters. A bell chimes well. It's more like someone hitting a turtle shell with a stick, but it gets the job done. People begin walking toward the plaza again, not hurriedly, but with purpose. You're told it's time for the reckoning. Don't worry, it's not judgment day, it's calendar checking day. You walk with them, the cup still warm in your hand. You think again about that shell-shaped zero, a number, a symbol, a pause. You enter the plaza where stones are arranged in concentric rings. A fire smolders in the center. The codex elder is there, as are the builders, the scribe, the boy with the jaguar toy, and the girl who told you to fall in love. Everyone sits. Someone begins to chant. Another spins the calendar wheel. Today, they say, is Ada Jam, good for forgiveness, good for corn, good for remembering who you are in relation to the sky. You sit with them, part of the circle now. You close your eyes. You listen. You wake eventually to the sound of grinding stone. Not thunder, not chanting, just a steady, grainy churn. A rhythmic scrape that pulls you from your hammock with the subtle urgency of a polite rooster. You wander toward it, rubbing your eyes, and find the source, a line of women, young and old, kneeling in the shade beside the long outer wall of a household compound. Each has a slab of stone in front of her, a metate and a chunk of something golden and dry. Maize, of course. Mainstream historical fact, the Maya diet was overwhelmingly based on maize. Corn wasn't just a crop, it was considered sacred. In their mythology, humans were literally made from corn dough. This grinding you're watching. This isn't food prep, it's anthropology in action. You squat beside one woman who's working the stone with a rhythm that feels older than the walls around her. She says something in a soft voice, something that sounds like ixim. That's the word for corn in many Mayan languages. You say it back. She nods. You have passed the first test. The paste she's making will be pressed into tortillas, yes, but also used in drinks, porridges, and if rumors are true, even a fermented brew that you will not be offered until the elders trust you not to fall asleep in the sacred pool. You're not there yet. Quirky tidbit: Maya cooks sometimes added ash to their maize paste, a process called nixtamalization, not for spice but to boost its nutritional content. The alkali treatment released niacin and made the food more digestible. You didn't think chemical engineering would be on today's menu, but here we are. She offers you a go at the metate. You accept with too much confidence. 2 minutes later, you're sweating through your tunic and have successfully achieved a vaguely crumbled mess. The stone is heavy, the rhythm is deceptive, and the woman beside you has the expression of someone watching a puppy chew a shoe. You hand the stone back, respectfully. Once enough paste is ground, the women begin shaping it into flat discs. Some are placed directly onto a hot clay comel over coals. The scent is immediate, warm, toasty, almost sweet. It wraps around you like a blanket of breakfast. A small child tries to sneak one from the stack and is gently but firmly redirected with the precision of someone who's done this before, probably because they were the child once. Historians still argue whether food production in Maya society was strictly gendered, or if men also participated in grinding and cooking when needed. While most depictions lean toward women managing the domestic hearth, some murals and texts suggest shared duties, especially during festivals or shortages. Either way, it's clear the metate is more than a kitchen tool, it's a cornerstone of life. You eat several. One is handed to you with a smear of beans and something red and spicy. Another comes with honey. Yes, actual bee honey. From stingless bees kept in tiny log hives tucked behind the house. You glance at a hive and wonder how many ankle-level stings it takes to learn which end is which. You're then guided toward a different building, less ceremonial, more business. Inside it's cool with shelves made of woven reeds, holding bundles of scrolls, bark paper codices, and a few clay tokens stamped with symbols. You've stumbled into the bureaucratic heart of a Maya home. Because, of course, there are receipts in paradise. Mainstream historical fact. The Maya developed a complex system of hieroglyphic writing, used for everything from sacred texts to trade records. They wrote on stone pottery stucco walls and codices made of bark paper coated in lime paste. Most of these codices have been lost, some to time, others to fire. A man in a painted wrap is sitting cross-legged near the far wall, carving tiny glyphs into a soft clay tablet. He doesn't look up, but he gestures for you to sit. A young girl is beside him, mimicking his hand movements in the air, mouthing the words silently. You realize you're witnessing something like a school. He slides a practice tablet toward you, flat, damp, with a stylus made of sharpened bone. He points to a glyph on the wall, a curl with dots and a hook. Khan, he says. It means yellow or precious depending on the context. You try to copy it. Your result looks like a startled eel, but he nods. Historians still argue whether Maya literacy was widespread or restricted to a small priestly elite. While most believe scribes were part of the noble class, some evidence suggests that merchant households and even skilled artisans could read and write at least some glyphs. You, meanwhile, will be lucky if yours isn't mistaken for a snake emoji. Outside, the day is stretching toward late afternoon. A bell made of a suspended shell rings from somewhere nearby. Not a call to arms, more like a gentle reminder, bath time. You're led back to the sacred reservoir near the edge of the compound. It's rectangular, sunken with stone steps descending into water that shimmers gold with dust and light. It's not for drinking, it's for restoration. Mainstream historical fact: Maya cities had sophisticated water systems, including reservoirs, aqueducts, and drainage channels. Some pools were engineered with layers of sand and charcoal for filtration. Others, like this one, were considered sacred and used for purification rituals. You ease down the steps, the coolness creeping up your legs, your spine. Someone hums nearby, another bathgoer perhaps. There's a mural on the far wall, painted in faded reds and ochres, a figure rising from the earth maze, sprouting from their limbs, a sun disk behind the head. You float, watching the mural watch you. The water smells faintly of limestone and flowers. No one rushes. No one splashes. This is not a pool party. This is communion. Quirky tidbit. Some Maya bathed using aromatic leaves or flower infusions, believing they could cleanse not just the body, but also heat or emotional imbalance. There were even sweat lodges, temazcals, used to purify warriors before and after battle. Your spa day just got an upgrade. The light overhead softens. Someone steps into the water beside you. You don't turn to look. You don't need to. It's enough to share the silence. A bird calls in the distance, and the sound echoes off the stone, bouncing in soft ripples across the pool's surface. When you finally step out, the air hugs your skin. The towel you're handed is rough but welcome. The world is quiet, like it's pausing for breath. You head back toward the compound, toward the final heat of the day, feeling polished. Not clean exactly, but burnished. Smoothed by history. You're ready now, they say, for evening. But evening here is a performance. You wake eventually to the sound of grinding stone. Not thunder, not chanting, just a steady grainy churn. A rhythmic scrape that pulls you from your hammock with the subtle urgency of a polite rooster. You wander toward it, rubbing your eyes, and find the source, a line of women young and old, kneeling in the shade beside the long outer wall of a household compound. Each has a slab of stone in front of her, a metate and a chunk of something golden and dry. Maize, of course. Mainstream historical fact: the Maya diet was overwhelmingly based on maize. Corn wasn't just a crop, it was considered sacred. In their mythology, humans were literally made from corn dough. This grinding you're watching. This isn't food prep, it's anthropology in action. You squat beside one woman who's working the stone with a rhythm that feels older than the walls around her. She says something in a soft voice, something that sounds like ixim. That's the word for corn in many Mayan languages. You say it back. She nods. You have passed the first test. The paste she's making will be pressed into tortillas, yes, but also used in drinks, porridges, and if rumors are true, even a fermented brew that you will not be offered until the elders trust you not to fall asleep in the sacred pool. You're not there yet. Quirky tidbit: Maya cooks sometimes added ash to their maize paste, a process called nixtamalization, not for spice but to boost its nutritional content. The alkali treatment released niacin and made the food more digestible. You didn't think chemical engineering would be on today's menu, but here we are. She offers you a go at the metate. You accept with too much confidence. 2 minutes later, you're sweating through your tunic and have successfully achieved a vaguely crumbled mess. The stone is heavy, the rhythm is deceptive, and the woman beside you has the expression of someone watching a puppy chew a shoe. You hand the stone back, respectfully. Once is enough, paste is ground. The women begin shaping it into flat discs. Some are placed directly onto a hot clay comel over coals. The scent is immediate, warm, toasty, almost sweet. It wraps around you like a blanket of breakfast. A small child tries to sneak one from the stack and is gently but firmly redirected with the precision of someone who's done this before, probably because they were the child once. Historians still argue whether food production in Maya society was strictly gendered, or if men also participated in grinding and cooking when needed. While most depictions lean toward women managing the domestic hearth, some murals and texts suggest shared duties, especially during festivals or shortages. Either way, it's clear the metate is more than a kitchen tool, it's a cornerstone of life. You eat. You eat several. One is handed to you with a smear of beans and something red and spicy. Another comes with honey. Yes, actual bee honey. From stingless bees kept in tiny log hives tucked behind the house. You glance at a hive and wonder how many ankle-level stings it takes to learn which end is which. You're then guided toward a different building. Less ceremonial, more business. Inside, it's cool with shelves made of woven reeds, holding bundles of scrolls, bark paper codices, and a few clay tokens stamped with symbols. You've stumbled into the bureaucratic heart of a Maya home. Because, of course, there are receipts in paradise. Mainstream historical fact. The Maya developed a complex system of hieroglyphic writing used for everything from sacred texts to trade records. They wrote on stone pottery, stucco walls, and codices made of bark paper coated in lime paste. Most of these codices have been lost, some to time, others to fire. A man in a painted wrap is sitting cross-legged near the far wall, carving tiny glyphs into a soft clay tablet. He doesn't look up, but he gestures for you to sit. A young girl is beside him, mimicking his hand movements in the air, mouthing the words silently. You realize you're witnessing something like a school. He slides a practice tablet toward you, flat damp with a stylus made of sharpened bone. He points to a glyph on the wall, a curl with dots and a hook. Khan, he says. It means yellow or precious depending on the context. You try to copy it. Your result looks like a startled eel, but he nods. Historians still argue whether Maya literacy was widespread or restricted to a small, priestly elite. While most believe scribes were part of the noble class, some evidence suggests that merchant households and even skilled artisans could read and write at least some glyphs. You, meanwhile, will be lucky if yours isn't mistaken for a snake emoji. Outside, the day is stretching toward late afternoon. A bell made of a suspended shell rings from somewhere nearby. Not a call to arms, more like a gentle reminder, bath time. You're led back to the sacred reservoir near the edge of the compound. It's rectangular, sunken with stone steps descending into water that shimmers gold with dust and light. It's not for drinking, it's for restoration. Mainstream historical fact: Maya cities had sophisticated water systems, including reservoirs, aqueducts, and drainage channels. Some pools were engineered with layers of sand and charcoal for filtration. Others, like this one, were considered sacred and used for purification rituals. You ease down the steps, the coolness creeping up your legs, your spine. Someone hums nearby, another bathgoer perhaps. There's a mural on the far wall painted in faded reds and ochres, a figure rising from the earth, maize sprouting from their limbs, a sun disk behind the head. You float watching the mural watch you. The water smells faintly of limestone and flowers. No one rushes. No one splashes. This is not a pool party. This is communion. Quirky tidbit. Some Maya bathe using aromatic leaves or flower infusions, believing they could cleanse not just the body, but also heat or emotional imbalance. There were even sweat lodges, temazcals, used to purify warriors before and after battle. Your spa day just got an upgrade. The light overhead softens. Someone steps into the water beside you. You don't turn to look. You don't need to. It's enough to share the silence. A bird calls in the distance, and the sound echoes off the stone, bouncing in soft ripples across the pool's surface. When you finally step out, the air hugs your skin. The towel you're handed is rough but welcome. The world is quiet, like it's pausing for breath. You head back toward the compound, toward the final heat of the day, feeling polished, not clean exactly, but burnished, smoothed by history. You're ready now, they say, for evening. But evening here is a performance. Evening in this Maya city doesn't just fall, it descends with ceremony like a curtain drawn on the day's stage. The light turns syrupy, sticky with color. Oranges, deep pinks, and smoky purples ripple across the thatched rooftops and catch on the walls of the plaza as if the stone is blushing. You sit near the center, surrounded by the quiet shuffle of people, gathering not in a crowd, but like tributaries drifting toward a common river. Children dart through your periphery, their shadows long and giggling. A man wearing a headdress made of feathers and small reflective jade pieces moves slowly through the gathering, his every step deliberate. His role tonight isn't religious or martial, it's theatrical. Mainstream historical fact. The Maya were passionate dramatists. Public performances often included masked dances, storytelling, and reenactments of mythological events. These weren't mere diversions, they were spiritual acts blending history, religion, and community memory. You're given a woven mat and gestured to sit. Around you, families settle in passing around small bowls of tamales and a drink that smells vaguely of chocolate and chili. Someone hands you one. You sip. It's warm, spiced, and somehow both calming and electric. Your mouth is confused but grateful. Quirky tidbit, that drink is likely zocolotl, a frothy mix of cacao, water, chili, and sometimes maize. The Maya consumed it regularly, not as dessert, but as a sacred stimulating beverage. Cacao beans were even used as currency. Imagine tipping your Uber Eats driver with Hershey's Kisses. The show begins without an announcement. A drum beat rises like a heartbeat finding its rhythm. It isn't loud, more like a pulse in the soles of your feet. Two dancers emerge from behind a woven screen, their bodies painted, their movements staccato and precise. One wears a jaguar mask, the other a skeletal visage with long, thin limbs drawn onto his arms. They circle each other. The story, it seems, is older than language. Birth, conflict, descent, return. The jaguar strikes. The skeleton bends but does not fall. A third dancer enters, a woman cloaked in maize, leaves her face half sun, half shadow. She raises her arms and all three freeze. Historians still argue whether these evening performances were part of regular civic life or limited to calendrical festivals. Some cities show signs of permanent performance platforms. Others leave only fragments. Clay figurines, mid-dance painted murals, and poetic glyphs that hint at routines now lost to time. You watch the story unfold with half comprehension and full fascination. The jaguar becomes the night. The skeleton dissolves into ash. The woman plants a seed in her chest, and from it a flute's note rises. A child in the audience gasps, and somewhere behind you, someone weeps softly. As the story ends, the dancers bow not to the audience, but to the fire pit now glowing in the center of the plaza. A priest approaches, hands outstretched, holding what appears to be, yes, corn again. You were told this would happen. A ritual offering is made. The corn is placed into the flames along with small bundles of herbs, feathers, and colored string. The fire cracks and spits. People remain still, faces bathed in orange, as if waiting for something invisible to arrive. Mainstream historical fact. The Maya routinely offered food, drink, and crafted items to the gods in fires or at altars, especially at transitional times, sunrise, sunset, solstice, equinox. These moments blurred the line between earthly and divine. You sit hypnotized until the flames dim. One by one, people rise and drift homeward. A woman stops beside you, leans in, and presses a small stone into your hand. It's smooth, slightly warm. A carved symbol rests on its surface, a simple spiral. She doesn't explain. She doesn't need to. You follow the winding path back toward your temporary quarters. The houses are quiet now except for the soft sound of flutes somewhere distant and the rhythmic chirping of insects, nature's lullaby scored by the jungle itself. You pause near a low wall. There's movement just beyond it, figures placing jars and baskets into an alcove beneath the house. A teenage boy catches your eye and shrugs, grinning. For the ancestors, he might be saying. Quirky tidbit. The Maya often buried offerings or even human remains beneath their homes. These weren't just graveyards, they were spiritual foundations. Your bedroom might literally be built over grandma. The air is thick but not stifling. It holds the scent of roasted maize earth and wood smoke. You pass another home and catch sight of a woman lighting a small clay lamp, placing it on a ledge beside a carved figure. Not grand, not gold, just clay, still powerful. Inside your own space, temporary though it may be, you sit on your mat and unfold your day like a scroll. The grinding stones, the pool, the glyphs, the dance, the fire, the stars overhead are unusually clear. No city haze, no satellite trains, just the real ancient sky. Mainstream historical fact. The Maya were master astronomers. They tracked Venus cycles, solar eclipses, and lunar movements with uncanny precision. Many of their temples and observatories were aligned with celestial events. They could tell you the solstice without a smartphone or pants. You look up. There to the west hangs Venus, bright, unblinking. The evening star, the war star, the timekeeper. Historians still argue whether Maya astronomy was driven purely by agricultural needs or tied to deeper mythological cycles. What's clear is they watched the heavens not for entertainment, but for instruction. The sky told them when to plant, when to harvest, when to build, and when to sit quietly and simply watch. You feel the spiral stone in your hand and realize it too is a kind of map, not to a place but to a rhythm. Inward, outward, inhale, exhale, day, night, seed, flame. You lie down. The roof above you creaks softly in the night breeze. A small lizard scurries across the beam, then vanishes into a thatch. You smile. That's a callback if there ever was one. Your eyes close, the day folding like a ceremonial cloth. And still somewhere in the darkness, the memory of the drum beat echoes low and steady like a heart just before sleep. Your body has settled, but the story continues just beneath your skin in the places dreams begin. You drift for a while in that in-between place, neither fully asleep nor quite awake, where a frog's croak becomes a prophecy and a firefly is a wandering spirit with somewhere better to be. Somewhere in the early hours just before the horizon even hints at changing color, you stir. Not because of a noise, but because something subtle shifts in the air. It's cooler now, with a thin breath of wind pushing through the reed walls. You rise slowly and pet outside your feet, silent against the packed earth. The world hasn't awakened yet. It's holding its breath. You walk through the silent plaza past sleeping dogs curled like apostrophes. The city is a lullaby still in progress. But up ahead, flickering orange light suggests the day's first chapter is being drafted. Mainstream historical fact, Maya cities didn't run on clocks as we know them, but timekeeping was anything but loose. Priests and astronomers, sometimes the same people, tracked time via sun position, shadow, and celestial alignments. Certain rituals had to begin at precise moments, often just before or after dawn. You're not the only one awake. Near the eastern edge of the city, a small group gathers before a stone platform. Someone chants, not loudly, more like a whisper that learned to echo. You stand off to the side, careful not to disturb the mood. A bundle is unwrapped inside a bowl of cornmeal, a small clay turtle, and what looks like a shard of obsidian gleaming despite the dim light. These are symbolic offerings, each representing a piece of the Maya cosmology. The turtle is the earth. The obsidian is sacrifice, clarity, and divine power. The cornmeal is, well, everything else. Quirky tidbit. The Maya believed humans were made of corn dough. Their gods tried other materials first, mudwood, even animal mixtures, but those prototypes were too soft, too soulless, or too chatty. Only the corn people were just right. Take that gluten-free. A priest raises his hands as the sun cracks the horizon. The light doesn't spill, it pierces golden and quiet, as if someone cut open the sky just enough to let a single note play. They sing now not like a choir, but like one voice stretching across many throats. The song isn't happy or sad. It's like a clock striking without numbers, a sound that means we begin again. Historians still argue whether these dawn rituals were performed daily or only on sacred dates marked by the long count calendar. Some glyphs describe rituals spaced by 13 days or 260. Others suggest sunrise ceremonies happen far more often, particularly near equinoxes when day and night shook hands as equals. You don't need the calendar to know this moment matters. As the chant fades, the group disperses without fanfare. No applause, no mingling. The performance wasn't for you or even for them, it was for time itself, to mark its passage, to remind the world it's still spinning. You follow a stone pathway that leads behind the ceremonial platform. There, tucked beneath a tree, is the mouth of a cave, low, narrow, easy to miss. You kneel and peer inside. The scent of earth and moisture creeps out like a slow exhale. You crawl a few paces in until the sunlight recedes. The darkness here isn't oppressive, it's velvet, and it hums. Mainstream historical fact. The Maya considered caves sacred. They were seen as portals to the underworld, not necessarily a hellish place, but one where ancestors lived and gods listened more closely. Rituals, offerings, and even burials were often conducted in these liminal spaces. Inside, you find the remnants of a fire pit, charred stones, faint soot trails, and a few broken shards of clay. Maybe once part of a vessel, maybe once someone's prayer. You sit, the silence is vast. Then you remember the spiral stone, the one placed in your hand after last night's dance. You take it out and place it carefully on a flat stone. It doesn't glow. It doesn't hum. It just rests there, still, ancient, patient. And in this moment, so do you. Quirky tidbit. Some Maya cave sites were deliberately sealed after major rituals, not to keep people out, but to preserve the magic inside, as if the act of closing the door made the prayer permanent. You don't seal the cave, but when you emerge, blinking into the now yellow sunlight, you feel changed anyway. Like something small and significant shifted just behind your ribs. The city is waking up. Smoke curls from cook fires. The slap of tortilla dough echoes from multiple doorways. A child with hair sticking up in all directions giggles and points at your cave-dusty clothes. You wave and pretend to roar like a cave beast. He shrieks with laughter and runs. You pause one last time in the plaza. The shadows are short now, the heat is on its way. Historians still argue whether Maya cities followed rigid routines or operated on more seasonal, festival-driven rhythms. It's likely they had both everyday patterns overlaid by grand celestial arcs. Your day here, though, waking before the world, witnessing its ceremonial rebirth, Feels like the truest kind of schedule. You return to your mat. Your pack waits nearby. Soon you'll leave. This city doesn't need you, not really. It has its own rhythms, its own stars to chase. But for now, for these last few minutes, you sit in its heartbeat. And that heartbeat says time isn't just ticking, it's breathing. You're almost gone, but not quite. One foot still lingers in this Maya city, in this honey-lit dawn full of corn-scented breezes and bird calls like flutes tuning up. The other foot, it's already on the path home, back to the hum of modern life, where time is something you chase, not something that feeds you. But before you go one last stop, because in this place departures aren't rushed, they're measured, marked, sometimes even sung. You're led gently, wordlessly by an elder with silver-threaded braids and a smile older than most languages. She takes you to the outskirts past low fields, where maize stalks lean into the wind like gossiping neighbors. The path narrows, curls like a question mark, and ends at what looks like another cave. Smaller, circular, tidy even. Almost like a meditation hut carved straight from the hillside. Mainstream historical fact. The Maya used man-made cave-like structures, often called sweat houses or temazcal, as ritual spaces for purification. These were not just spas, they were deeply symbolic, often tied to rebirth, healing, and the feminine energy of the earth. You duck inside. The air smells like herbs and ash. The elder follows seals the entrance with a woven mat and lights a bowl of coals. Then she adds something fragrant, copal maybe, and suddenly the room blooms with a scent like memory and warm stone. You sit, she hums. The sweat begins almost immediately trickling down your back, your brow, your thoughts. Time melts here, not stops, just dissolves, becomes steam. You feel yourself loosening, not just your muscles, but your certainties. Like maybe time isn't always forward. Maybe it loops, spirals, folds. Quirky tidbit. Some Maya believed that these sweat baths simulated the womb of the earth. Emerging from one wasn't just about getting clean, it was symbolic of being reborn. A do-over. Pressing reset on your cosmic to-do list. The elder speaks now, not in Spanish, not in English, but you understand the rhythm. She's telling you the names of the time gods, the ones who govern the days you forget to honor, the ones who smile when you pause, breathe, and actually look at the sky. She hands you a small object, a kernel of dried corn, black as obsidian warm from her palm. A parting gift, a seed, a second chance. Historians still argue whether the Maya saw time as linear or cyclical. The truth is probably both. Days marched, yes, but they also returned. Sacred dates came around like seasons. Even death was just a bend in the calendar. You emerge blinking, steaming like fresh bread. The sun is high now and the city is full of motion dogs barking mats, being swept, a child chasing a chicken that definitely doesn't want to be caught. You smile, pocket your corn kernel, and begin walking. But as you go, the world feels different. The colors more saturated, the sounds slightly musical. Like maybe you're still in a story and you just haven't reached the next page yet. Because the Maya didn't measure time to control it. They measured time to meet it, to understand what kind of energy walked beside them each day. Was it a planting day, a forgiving day, a day to sleep late and eat too much tamale? And now back in your own life, you carry that question, what kind of day is this? Maybe you'll light a candle tonight, Or take a long bath and pretend it's a sweat house. Maybe you'll whisper a thank you to the stars. Or just sit with your morning coffee holding that black corn kernel in your palm and listen for the slow, sacred tick of ancient time. Because even here now, with screens and spreadsheets and schedules that pretend to be important, surely time still breathes. The journey has ended, but the rhythm remains, soft and steady like footsteps on ancient stone. You feel it in your breath, slow and even now, in your fingers which still remember the warmth of that obsidian seed, in your thoughts which have quieted, not emptied, but softened like dusk pressing gently on the horizon. Let yourself stay here a little longer. Picture the maize fields glowing under the moonlight, silver threads rustling with each breeze. Picture the dancers swirling by firelight, their masks almost lifelike. Picture the caves, cool, damp, ancient, and the echo of chants rising like smoke. This is where the Maya lived, not just in cities and temples, but in their calendars, their rituals, their stories. Each day carried meaning. Each night held a message. Even now, across centuries and languages, you've heard it too. You've moved through their markets, floated in their sacred pools, touched stones that remember everything. You've felt time not as pressure, but as presence. So let your body settle. Let your thoughts slow. You are safe. You are still. Somewhere in the dark, a flute plays. Somewhere deeper, the earth breathes. And you, for now, are exactly where you're meant to be. Close your eyes. Drift. You've traveled far enough for one night.